Salt Lake City, Utah.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm E. Martinez.
And I'm Layla Fadel.
Good morning. This is meteorologist Russ Murley with your WTJX local forecast. This is Friday, the 31st of October. Sunshine, partly sunny at times, maybe a passing shower. Temperatures in the upper 80s. There is a heat advisory in effect for today for elevated humidity values. Heat index temperatures may approach 108 degrees. East to southeast winds at 10 to 15. Partly cloudy with isolated showers, low 80s tonight. Partly sunny, isolated showers, upper 80s tomorrow. There's still a slight chance of a shower tomorrow night, 79 to 83, and partly sunny with isolated showers, upper 80s on Sunday. Rip current risk will be moderate for the next several days, and Melissa continues to accelerate northeastward, impacting Bermuda today.
WTJX 93.1 Charlotte Amalia, your NPR station in the Virgin Islands.
The opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Analyze This, which is a weekday program every morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. here on WTGX FM 93.1, your NPR station in the Virgin Islands. And I am your guest host, former Senator Samuel Carrión, filling in for Neville James. Neville will be back on Wednesday, November 5th, when he will have one of the guests from UVI, will be UVA professor Olasi Davis. But we are here this morning, and we will have a very interesting program this morning. At 8 a.m., we will have Stephanie Chalana Brown, which is the director in the Division of Culture and Education, and we'll be discussing David Hamilton and Alawi, the student art exhibit at Cane Roots Art Gallery. And also then at 9 a.m. we will have Brian Walden, who is the director of the VA Energy, along with Kyle Fleming, executive director of VA Energy Office. And they will be sharing with us some very important information. But we're happy to be here this morning once again. And we have with us the director, Brown.
Hi,
good morning.
Good morning to all your listeners.
Thank you. And it's so great to have you here with us. And like I said, Chalana, Director Brown, is the leading the Division of Cultural Education within the Department of Education, right?
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about yourself before we start, and your role, and then tell us why you were here to share with us this morning.
Me?
And then you'll introduce your guests, because I know you have guests with you.
Well, I steward the Division of Virgin Islands Cultural Education, which is nestled in the Virgin Islands Department of Education. And I'm able to steward, as a community liaison, the heritage and culture of the Virgin Islands. And a lot of times people think that Division of Cultural Education is performative specifically, but it was erected by our former governor, Charles Turnbull, to make sure that we steward education and heritage together, so that we see our heritage and culture in science, that we see it in math, that we see it in social studies, of course, but it's rooted in all the core subjects. Because if we look around in our environment, marine biology, that tells the story of us as a people, and we've always been in close proximity to the ocean, to not only steward it, but also we have stories of migration from it, and our environment, and how we eat is from our environment. So I nestle conversations like that into the classroom, and math. So as well, I think that's one that most people are like, how do you have
Yeah,
culture?
sometimes, yeah.
It's so easy. As we just, it could go from something really, really stringent to like something minuscule. So just teaching young persons math, when you're counting, like instead of apples, which is universal. Every country has apples, but maybe you use something that is more synonymous to the Caribbean. So you'll be like,
Correct.
you have 5 avocados.
No golden apple,
Yeah.
carabola, you know.
Yeah, this is as simple as
It's true.
something like that. Or you could do
And that's
some
where you combine.
combine, right? Or you could do something like really harder, like if you talk about the timelines, and let's talk about David Hamilton Jackson, because we gave a very large 17-page document to teachers, right?
And as we approach, right, the day, Liberty Day, and known as the Hamilton Jackson Day, that's one of the reasons why you're here, to kind of,
Correct.
reflect on life and legacy of one of St. Croix's most influential leaders, right?
Correct.
So I guess we could introduce your guest, and you could start on however you want to
Okay,
share.
yeah.
What's
I'll just finish up the statement
Fluent,
though.
yes.
So like, in the curriculum that we gave to teachers, because we didn't just say, here, celebrate David Hamilton Jackson Day. We gave them a full curriculum. And so like, that David Hamilton Jackson stewarded persons making up from like less than 10 cents to 35 cents. Those are just arithmetic problems that you can use. So you can use David Hamilton Jackson as, the steward towards your lesson about arithmetic that day. So it's simple things like that, right? But with me today, we have a community partner, Miss Sonia Dean of Cane Roots Art Gallery. And I just want to tell people that the Division of Cultural Education is nothing without partners. I don't pretend to know everything about culture and heritage, and I always go to our local organizations to engage our classrooms. I'm always part of other people's community events, so that I too can gain
course.
capacity.
That's
correct?
beautiful, the
Yeah.
power of partnership.
Exactly. And we have a very strong partner. And I'll let Miss Sonia Dean introduce herself. Hi, Miss Sonia.
Who is no stranger to the studio, because I've heard her here before,
Yeah.
and to our community. Good morning,
Yeah.
Sonia.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure. And I would say, besides always supporting artists in the community by having exhibits, this is very special. It's special because it's the partnership between me and Chalana. And I'm a 25 plus year veteran in education, because that's what I did in New York for over 25 years. And my specialty was infant and toddler development. So education is very near and dear to me. So supporting Chalana in this community activity with the students is very, very special. And it's special in the way that, combining education and gallery work, we get to have the children's work shine. You'll come in, I don't want to give it away, but it will be presented in a very gallery fashion, plus a very natural fashion, combining the natural elements and the creative work of the children.
Beautiful. And for those that might not know you, Sonia, tell us just quickly a little bit about yourself and where your studio is.
Yeah, I'm on the part of Company Street before you turn right into Market Square, around the St. Croix Foundation. So that's where you can find me, in a blue building tucked away on the first floor, just after you pass the church. That's where I am. And we've been there for quite a while. Not a lot of people still don't know we're there, but we're growing. We're coming up on our 5th anniversary in December.
Wow.
And
Time
it's,
flies, huh?
yeah, so it's very, very special.
People know it as the old Woodson building as well. Mr.
Yeah.
Woodson, one of our beloved educators, that was once his
Yeah,
home space.
I found that so special that I'm occupying a building of a former education, and a school is named after him also.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So then tell us a bit then, Director Brown, what's coming up?
Okay, so I started a program during COVID along with a beautiful curator, our territorial curator under the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, and that young lady's name is Monica Marin. And
Oh, shout out to Monica.
We started this beautiful program celebrating David Hamilton Jackson by using art for activism. So we know that young persons may feel frustrated about, all the things that are happening in the world. But how do you give them the tools to be able to express themselves in a way that is expressive and not demeaning to, the rest of the community? And so we were like, well, the best way is through the arts. And we started a program, and we started also with the Grove Place Action Committee. And we went to a lot of the schools yearly, and we just didn't just put out a poster and say, have your students be involved. We actually went to the classrooms. We gave history lessons about David Hamilton Jackson, and then also Monica steward the children with making art, starting their projects, and then we'll leave the classroom, and of course the teacher would continue, and then they would submit it. And so we had beautiful projects. Some of our works has even been, the young person's works rather, have been on the Senate floor, because it's not only about David Hamilton Jackson, like you're making photos of him or art about him, but using the ideologies of him. So you use your voice to maybe think about things that are happening that are affecting you personally. So I remember that one student, the water was corroded with brown water at one time. About 2 years ago, we were experiencing that. And the young man's clothes, whenever he washed it, his white shirts for school were brown, and he made a piece of art. And one of our senators came to the exhibit, and they were so touched that instead of saying negative things on social media or so forth, that rather he chose to speak about it like through art, right? That is universal and long lasting, right? Because I mean, a decade, 20 years from now, like that art will tell about what happened, right? And they use it on the Senate floor to tell WAPA, like, this is how our young people are feeling. And I thought that was like, he can use that.
Powerful.
Yeah, so powerful. He can use that whenever he attended a larger institution. They say he wanted to go to college or whatever. And, he's now documented on our legislative translated floor on the power of art. So I thought that was something that was beautiful. And that is what we continue to do. We're using David Hamilton Jackson, but it's really because he was a labor rights movement organizer, and helped our press be able to publish what we felt was important, rather than through the ordinances that were placed upon our newspapers at the time.
So I see the connection there because of the liberty of expression through free speech,
Yes.
which was something that he advocated so much for, and allowing now the students to also express freely through arts and connect that with David Hamilton Jackson. It's awesome. So why is this event so meaningful, especially as we celebrate Liberty Day in the Virgin Islands?
Oh my gosh, this is so layered. Like, how do you break that down? First off, I just want to say, we celebrate David Hamilton Jackson, and he was a territorial leader. I've read the Herald many times, and I mean, it's like 10 years of newspaper clippings. I'm still going through it. And the stories that I've read through his perspective.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for those that might not know, he is the founder, right?
Of the Herald,
Of
yeah.
the Herald.
The first press that was specifically geared towards people of color in the territory. And so when I read the Herald, and he even used it to share stories about what he had heard orally in the past, like even our festival. And I've learned stories about our festival, of how we had to fight governors, colonial governors, to have festival. And then when I go and I compare the year, the date to other more colonial structured newspapers, I don't see those stories. So he was really at the forefront, right, of sharing oral stories, but also the perspective of the actual people on the ground, the laborers at that time. So
It was their voice.
it was their voice, right? And I didn't see that in the other newspapers. It was about business a lot. It was about what was going on in the rest of the world, but not really about the laboring class.
And that's why having the children's work is so important, because it's their voice. Be it a second grader, and we were posting kindergarten onto construction paper yesterday. It was their voice. And even if it was a duplication where an art teacher shows them an image of Jackson, they're able to do that. I mean, and they did those pictures of him and markers, and somebody next to me said, "What are all the circles?" I said, "Those are the heads of people saying yay, yay, yay." So again, that's their creative measure to capture Mr. Jackson.
That's amazing.
It is. And she's an early learners educator. So yeah, she can break it down.
And understand how that, how information is, fed into and then expressed. It's amazing.
I wanted to add something to what Chalana said around math. So early learning in math, and it comes to higher learning in math, a really good lesson around that where something was valued at 10 cents and you rise above the pay grade to 35 cents. Learning for children in math, you can actually take that today's wage. So what does 10 cents, if we move 10 cents to the value today, and then we wanted to take the wage from what's equivalent to 10 cents today in today's market, what would 35 cents be? So that's a really good 1 week lesson plan surrounding math.
And how you connect that, and then have the children understand how it relates to them and their household and so forth.
Yes, very important.
Becomes very meaningful. So when we talk about David Hamilton, we're talking about a legacy, right? And I think what you're trying to do is try to connect that legacy with the students. So I want to ask you then, how does this event help students connect with his legacy and with the broader story in the Virgin Islands, especially when we speak about self-determination and civic pride?
Yeah, I always, when I was at, I went to St. Thomas St. John District about 2 weeks ago. I really love the questions that the students at Ken asked me. Because I guess David Hamilton Jackson is more celebrated on St. Croix than on St. Thomas.
Well, his base was,
St. Croix,
here, right? So we can understand that.
And I just want to also inform our listeners that this year, through the David Hamilton Jackson project, we're also honoring Rothschild Francis, which is a big hero in the St. Thomas district. So they had a lot of questions about him. And I was just like, when you are able to wake up in the morning and you freely put on a press, and some people, they'll go to WTJX for the news feed. Some people go to the VI Consortium. Some people go to St. Croix Source, the Daily News. I was like, he was all of that before it was like, so freely available.
And we take that, you mentioned a point, because we take that for granted,
right?
Yes.
Right? Because now we have access to so much information that we didn't have before. So to be able to relate that to our children and have them understand that there was a period where it wasn't like this. And this man, he beat all the odds that were against him. And he advocated, and he pushed, and he not only spoke in words, but he made those words a reality.
Correct.
And he went all the way up to speak to those in power and speak to power and said, this is what we need, and this is what I'm advocating and fighting for, and then came back and established it here in the Virgin Islands. I mean, it's amazing. So when you're able to share that with the young people, it also breaks the ceiling of the barriers of self-limitation. If he was able to do that in that time,
Then you can do it also.
then we can do it.
We also talked about bullying. I was like, if you think that you're being bullied on social media, like, because the people say whatever they want to say about other persons on social media. I was like, well, you didn't experience what David Hamilton did when he went to Denmark. So yeah.
I could only imagine, right? And what read. But we're going to go into a break. We're about to go into a break shortly. So just hold that thought, and we'll be right back. You're here and Analyze This, 93.1 FM. Thank you. Okay, folks, we are back, and this is Analyze This, which is transmitted every day from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning with your host, Neville James. But today, I am a guest host standing in for the good Senator Neville James, and this is former Senator Samuel Carrión. And I'm joined here by beautiful people. We have Stephanie Chalana Brown, we have Sonia Dean, we have Cleo Lynch from Seneca Educational Complex. So it's a full house this morning, and we are talking about a beautiful event that is happening for our children in celebration of the Hamilton Jackson. And so, yeah, we're back here on the air. Director Brown.
Yeah. So the event happens this Saturday, of course, but further than just having a one-day event where, you see the children's work for one day, through the generosity of Cane Roots Art Gallery, which has donated the space to us, and that says a lot because first off, let me just break it down. Gallerists make money when they have work up and they're able to make commissions from the sales. And for 15 days, she will not be making any sales, and that shows her commitment to wanting to give a space for young people's expression to be showed. So that is a big commitment.
It is. Thank you,
yes.
thank you.
And so, so although it is opening on the 1st, it is available until the 15th. So persons can come on the first day. We have a ceremony, of course, because I would like to share again our community partners. Ernest Gilbert of Free Eye Consortium, he stepped up in a big way this year, and he provided all the prize donation monies to our students. So all Miss Cleo Lynch's students who place, they will have large sums of, rewards.
Beautiful.
And that's
It's
just
a beautiful
so beautiful.
incentive to keep the children going.
Yeah, of course. And then we also have activities. So from after our ceremony, from 1 to 2, we have Miss Maria Aurora Stiles. Most persons will know she was a former teacher as well, and she's into crafts from our local environment. From 1 to 2.
She's awesome.
Very awesome. 2 to 3, we have the Virgin Islands Good Food Coalition, who will be scaffolding like how to use our ecology again and agriculture for fun projects.
Shout out to Summer.
Sir Summer, who is also a host sometimes. And those are for the ages 5 to 11. And then as we go on later into the day, we have an older segment for teens to adults. So from 3 to 4, we have another great educator, Miss Saida Carter of Act Out Ensemble, and she will lead a workshop. Again, it's teens to adults. And then lastly, from 4 to 5, not to take away from anybody else's space, but we know that D. Hamilton Jackson spent most of his life living in Christiansted Town, and the Herald was also pressed and published in Christiansted, and so we'll do a walking tour of where all of that happened. And we also have the Society of Virgin Islands Historians, who has agreed to be there with us, so they'll give context to our walkers on like the buildings when you pass in Penttany House or Casper Holstein's house that was in Christiansted Town. So they'll just give more depth on Christiansted Town and how it helped with the free press here in the Virgin Islands. It played a large role in D. Hamilton Jackson's life.
Beautiful. Now, for those that are listening, do families have to register ahead of time? Do
no,
they just show
come,
up?
show up. Just show up.
Show up.
Just show up.
Yeah, even the gallery, even when it's not the students' work, it's a place to show up. Cane Roots Gallery, it's a place to show up.
Beautiful. So what time are we starting tomorrow?
It's 12 to 1, and we'll give, your ceremony. And we have a professor from Miss Francis from the University of the Virgin Islands. As we spoke about earlier, we're also honoring Racha Francis, who also had a newspaper in St. Thomas called The Emancipator. He comes out a little after D. Hamilton Jackson.
Yeah, I was going to
He's
ask you about
younger
that, to share a little bit about his contributions and why it's important to include him in this year's celebration.
Yeah, I think we need to do more about raising awareness about Racha Francis. There is a statue in the educator circle across from the post office and downtown Shaltamala. And he, I told the students that, it's important for you to know these persons' name because they paid the ultimate sacrifices. He was sort of bullied out of the Virgin Islands by the colonial government like that, and he never came back because he was jailed for writing about the things that the naval government was doing to our local residents. And even after he was jailed, he would when he was released, he would go back and write it again. And he would, experience brutality from the naval officers who were, our police officers at the time. And he was just advocating for residents to have equity in the streets that they helped build. And so I always tell people I always try to tell young people, I don't want to traumatize you, but I'm here to also tell you the truth. He's deserving of you knowing his name. Because of you, now you can walk through your streets, and now you also have full citizenship, because at that time we had even more pseudo citizenship. We were in limbo. We weren't Danish citizens, and we weren't we weren't even American citizens at the time of his newspaper.
Until 1927, right?
And then further to 1932.
32 really,
yeah. And so the Emancipator is a newspaper that's occurring at that time. And so he really helped to push the conversation along with Casper Holstein on getting full, we still don't have full citizenship, but, fuller.
That's a whole other topic for another day.
I want to say something. If you don't put people in to your history, then you're torn out of history. And I'm going to draw a correlation, which you'll be very familiar about too. When African Americans were given the Bible or had the Bible, the Exodus was removed, because if they were taught Exodus, then there would more be a plight for freedom. So if we leave people out like D. Hamilton Jackson and the other, yes, then you're not allowing for people to find their way to freedom, because then young people also will not have the tools to know that people who came before them, not just the queens, the firebuns, that there are people who came along way after them who were still in the fight.
Continue to fight.
Yeah.
And we continue to fight today.
It's imperative for my students to know where they came from.
Wait. Let me introduce you. We are joined here by
Big educator.
the educator, Miss Lynch. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, all. Thank you for having me on this platform. Chalana, I love working with you.
Oh my gosh.
I love the work that the cultural division has been doing over the past couple of years. Chalana and I have been in partnership because as soon as she sends out those emails, I'm on it with my students.
She is.
And it's imperative that they know their history. It goes back to, if you don't know your history, you don't know who you is. And my students, I think they suffer with that, right? In March of this year, you had a VI History Month competition as well.
Yes, we did, yes.
And one of my students, they did Casper Holstein. And I was like, do you know we have a Casper Holstein drive? He's like, Miss Lynch, what are you talking about? Let me just draw some reference. We're at St. Croix Educational Complex. Do we know where Casper Holstein Drive is? It's right there, right? It's right there by Castleberg Trailer Park. So he's like, you serious, Miss Lynch? No, it's opening an atmosphere for him to want to do more research. And that's what I'm finding with my students. Once I push this initiative out for them to do the assignment, they're researching, they're finding out more about their identity. And I appreciate that. Thank you for allowing our students to have your museum as a platform for them to have their work on display. They take more pride in their work, right? For me to go home and say, Mommy, my work there inside the museum.
In the gallery,
you know, come on,
Gallery.
the gallery, excuse me, the gallery. You know,
it does something to
it
you.
does
Yes, it
something.
does.
It's, it's a
Builds
sense
their
of pride.
Builds pride.
You know, if my daughter come, I telling everybody, come, let we go, because I want to see my child's stuff showcased.
Yes.
You know, so thank you so much for allowing us to have that platform.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And I just want to say, so year round, you guys, the Division of Culture Education, does so much year round. How does this program fit into your larger mission of preserving and teaching Virgin Islands culture and history?
But We do it all year round.
Ms. Lynch just mentioned how
yeah.
you did something in March and so forth. So
Yeah, but
share a little bit
there's
with the listening
highlights
audience.
because, of course, you want to reward students, but you know our community is only so big in terms of businesses, so I beg a lot for prizes. But there's certain times when I think that there's moments or what we call observations where I think that we need to do something bigger to get young people involved. And so and more I'm trying to get more prizes for young people. I mean, and let's just be real, everybody's pushed forward more when you actually get something incentive. So I actually think that this is one. I mean, because D. Hamilton Jackson made sure he got incentives for laborers, like so many Virgin Islanders. I just was privy to a deed where I saw David Hamilton Jackson's signature on the deed, and that's because he used labor union money, right, from people who didn't have much. You're making 10 cents, but everybody in a big pile, right? He was able to buy large plots of land for people and then resell it to persons in his labor union for lesser, and that got most people in the Virgin Islands their homes, and that's part of like what people know historically as like the New Deal and so forth. So people in Christiansted Town, these are people who are coming off of plantations. The fire burn just happened like 25 years previously. So these are people who are like never experienced living on their own property, and through like initiatives like what David Hamilton Jackson did, up to this day, the reason why so many people living in like Grove or in Christiansted Town previously to only freed black people being able to live there is because of David Hamilton Jackson and the labor union. So, yeah.
Sometimes we have no idea, right?
Exactly.
That's why history, and understand your history, it's so important. And like Sonia was saying, if not, then you tend to repeat the same mistakes of the past. Is there to be able to learn. And yes, there are some parts of our history that might be a little bit dark and difficult to talk about, but we still have to have those conversations because they are so important. And then the impact. Let's go back to a little bit about the students, right? And I would like to hear from Ms. Lynch as a teacher, what the reactions that she's been receiving from the young people who participate. How do they respond when they learn about figures like the Hamilton Jackson, like you mentioned, and especially through arts and storytelling and this opportunity of this event, what it does to the student.
So can we go back to the VIA History Month competition, because it's one and the same. One of my students did Polly Joseph, and the information that I didn't even know about him, right? And the more we found out, we kept digging even more, because our librarian, Miss Jonelle Johnson, she was also a librarian over at UVI. So she was able to inform us about a platform, a database with all newspapers. So we went into this rabbit hole, just digging to find out things about
research.
Yes, right. And these are my students. So
even teaching them, the techniques of research.
Exactly. So a lot of different lessons came out of this one research that project, came out of cultural division. So we found out about the West End newspaper, which we didn't even know existed, right? So having these platforms for students to do, it seems like it's just a competition, but there's so much more to it, right? Because the students are learning how to do research, they're learning how to write, they're learning how to be artistic. In this competition with David Hamilton Jackson, we had several students that did art pieces, right? This is coming out of my English class. It's the same, one and the same, right? Because once you do your art piece, I still have to sit back and kind of figure out, okay, where are we going with this? We had one that Chalana and I just looked at it in a daze, right? I can't wait to go to the gallery and see it being showcased. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Just speak into the mic. Yeah, just get
I
closer.
can't wait to go to the gallery to see it being showcased, but it allows the students to be excited about being Virgin Islanders, right? I want to know about this person. And but wait, this person have my last name. Miss Lynch, you think we related? Yes, you are.
Virgin Islands friend,
let's
yeah.
do the research. And oftentimes I have Chalana come into the classroom to do workshops with the
Yes, it's
students.
fun.
And it's exciting. Miss Lynch, when Miss Brown coming back, because it gives them the opportunity to meet with somebody else from the community about this information, right? She's coming in with a wealth of information. We did oh my goodness, I'm having a brain freeze.
Which project?
Schuster.
Oh, yes. The landowners. Yes.
Okay. And it became this whole conversation. We find people in the community to help the students. That was my great grandmother.
Yeah,
the student came
we
and
called
she was
Troy, and he had an interview.
with my
with
student.
She
She came back so excited, Miss Lynch. He called me back and we talk about this. And then the property over at Sunny Eyes. And but he has, listen, these children get so
Wow.
excited about being a Crucian and being able to make the connections with the work that they're doing in the classroom.
I want to say something about you as a teacher.
Yes.
You as a teacher, you have a singular subject matter in which you teach, but you have a format, a pedagogy of teaching where it's interdisciplinary. Traditionally, many decades back, you could be a singular teacher in a curriculum, but you knew to play the piano. You came into your classroom, you knew how to play an instrument. Athletics, and you're that kind of teacher.
Thank you.
You are.
She is amazing.
You're a Renaissance teacher.
Yes, she is.
So you bring one subject matter into the classroom, but you're able to do so many different things. And I relate to it because being an early childhood teacher, working with infants and toddlers, there's so many different things happening in the classroom. The sandbox, the water play, the slides. It's so, I have to say thank you.
Thank you, Miss Lynn. She's so progressive.
Renaissance teacher.
Yes.
And that's what a teacher's supposed to do.
And it's important because then you have their full attention and they're involved in different areas because you go across the board. And it awakens their desire to learn more. And that curiosity as a student. So that's awesome. Kudos to you, Miss Lynch. And we need more teachers like you.
Oh my goodness. I take pride in teaching the children of the Virgin Islands.
And that's how
Real
it should
pride.
be. And that's what we need. And that's why teachers are so important.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a break. And we are almost to the last lap of this section. I'm going to take this break and we will be right back shortly. This is, you're listening to Analyze This.